Nkunku dropped and Solanke injured. What transfers do the experts have in store for FPL Game Week 3? Well, we're going to be looking at their best players in each position before locking in their teams. Help me get this one to 500 likes and subscribe if you don't already. Let's get into it. If we look at the league standings to start off with, then 6 of the experts managed a triple figure haul for Game Week 2, largely helped by triple captain on Erling Haaland. Mahmoud Al-Zubi played the bench boost in Game Week 1, wildcarded Game Week 2, 181 points. He is 13k in the world. And a shout out to Ben from FPL Graduates and Who Got the Assist Tom, who make the top 10 having not played a chip already. Let me know in the comments how you're faring up against these experts so far this season. Looking at the experts' best players then, starting off with the goalkeepers under 5.5 million. I know there's momentum there at 5.5 for David Raya, but looking below that, Emi Martinez is out on top spot on 33% of the vote. And in second place, it is Crystal Palace's Dean Henderson with 17% of the vote. So if you went Henderson at the start of the season and are frustrated with his performances so far, I guess the message from the experts is to keep the faith. He's ahead of Flecken at the same price point, and Sanchez, Kepa, who's just moved to Bournemouth, Areola and Sells. We've also got Leno and Pope doing okay in the top 9 here. Moving on to the premium defenders, and pretty conclusive here. 64% of the experts voted Trent as the best defender, priced at over 5 million. Porro in second place with 16% of the vote, and a lot of love for both Liverpool fullbacks. Robertson with 8% of the vote, and don't forget about the Arsenal defence either after 2 clean sheets in 2, with Gabriel narrowly ahead of White. When we move to the defenders priced under 5 million, it's Fulham's Anthony Robinson with 52% of the vote who leads the way. Hopefully he will still be a Fulham player by the Game Week 3 deadline on Saturday, because there has been some interest in him from Manchester United. A lot of love for Aston Villa defenders given their fixture swing. Konza ahead of Pau, making up the top 3. And then in fourth place, very varied here, we've got Lewis, Munoz, Livramento and Gusto. So I think Robinson definitely the one that we're still looking to invest in. If you already own him, then an Aston Villa defender should grab your attentions. Moving into the midfield then, and I asked the experts for their favourite midfielder priced between 9 and 11 million. And there was a real split in the vote. 60% have said Palmer, 40% have said Saka. And this is probably the biggest problem that a lot of managers have got at the moment. Some trying to wildcard to get Palmer in. It's such a close call between these two right now. Personally, I just feel like Saka, I know what to expect from Arsenal. I can't say the same for Chelsea at the moment, but then Chelsea have the fixtures. So it is a tough call. It's probably unlikely that you can get both of them in, especially if you're going with Haaland in your squad. But food for thought there. De Bruyne impressed in Game Week 2, as did Heung-min Son. No room for them. It is a Palmer-Saka conversation right now. If we look towards the midfielders priced between 5 million and 7 million. This is really, really interesting because we've seen plenty of fire sales for Eze this week, who got a goal and an assist in the League Cup, by the way, to troll his FPL owners. 40% of the experts still believe him to be the best of the budget midfield picks, ahead of the likes of Smith Rowe and Burmo, Rodgers, Matoma. There's loads of these budget-friendly enablers that we can pick in midfield right now to help us to afford the likes of Palmer, Saka, Haaland and Salah. There's plenty of variety, so kind of take your pick there. I mean, Smith Rowe's got the fixtures, as has Rodgers, and Burmo, Matoma, couple of difficult ones before that schedule turns. Maybe we'll see momentum swing in their favour over the next few weeks. Rodgers ahead of Bailey. I think the saving there is quite significant, and there must be a Forest fan because Gibbs White has got 4% of the vote as well. Moving on to forwards then, and the best forward priced at over 7 million. And even though Isak was selected by 100% of the experts for Game Week 1, it's now Watkins with 68% of the vote, despite 2 blanks. and 2 early substitutions, but Villa have the fixtures now. Watkins have been getting those big chances. He's been unlucky not to deliver. Surely the returns are coming in the fixtures. Maybe that move from Isak to Watkins is viable right now. Havertz and Jackson down the pecking order here. I'm quite surprised at how low Havertz is because he's a real transfer target for me this week. And then when we look into the budget category, very clear here, those priced under 7 million, well, it's João Pedro with 68% of the votes, who takes top spot significantly from Muniz with 28%, and Chris Wood, maybe it's a Forest fan in there as well. No room for Welbeck in here, who's seen quite significant buys after some good early season form. João Pedro, Arsenal away this week, but Brighton have been in fantastic form to start the season, so we can't rule them out to continue that form into a more difficult period of fixtures. Here's how the experts team got on then in game week 2. It was 77 points, which puts us on a green arrow with an overall rank of 2.1 million. Kept faith with Porro despite an injury flag, and he delivered a clean sheet, as did Robinson. The attack did very well with returns in the midfield from Saka, Jota and Smith Rowe. Obviously, Solanke failed to feature, so Nkunku came off the bench for a 1-pointer, and Haaland absolutely delivered with the captaincy, 34 points. 10% of the experts did vote to triple captain last week, kind of regretting not going with them now, as that would have been a really, really nice haul. But the team doesn't seem in too bad shape, with 2 free transfers going into game week 3. Lots of really great suggestions for transfers to make as well. Leading the way on the expert sell list, it's Christopher Nkunku, with 60% of the experts voting for him to be transferred out this week, and I can't disagree with them. I think he's just not looking like the player that we want in FPL. He's not nailed to start, certainly not nailed to play 90 either, and has to be a priority transfer now. Interestingly, 48% of the experts voting to sell Solanke. So in this pecking order, Nkunku is more of a problem. Solanke, we're still waiting on his fitness availability for game week 3. It doesn't look positive, but still the experts would rather get rid of Nkunku than Solanke. And Barco, who, you know, has frustrated, looked like he was going to be a gem, isn't now playing in the Premier League this season. Only 4% of the experts voting to sell him. This is significant because if you're a Barco owner, as a 5th defender on your bench at 4 million, and it's not going to drop in price, unless you've got loads of injuries elsewhere, he is not the priority. He's something that can be fixed on a wild card, so don't be trying to make that move, be put off by that red flag. Look at your 11 and fixing the weakest link in the 11 rather than worrying too much about your bench players. It's also worth noting here that there was one expert who voted to sell Eze this week and one that voted to sell Vardiol, but the majority of the transfer traffic was going with these 3 that you can see on screen now. Looking at the players to buy then, well, 64% of the experts have voted to buy Morgan Rogers this week. This is where most of that transfer traffic from Nkunku was going. That would release 1.4 million. There were votes elsewhere from Mbermo, Matoma, Morgan, Gibbs-White and Semenyo. So there are, you know, it is a congested price bracket. There are plenty of options to go to. Obviously, we already own Eze. Looking at the next player to buy, well, it's 20% of the votes going to Brighton's João Pedro in the forward spot, who looks like the best replacement if we do look at selling Solanke. Again, it would be nice to have information in the press conferences on Friday before committing to that transfer, especially because João Pedro obviously plays Arsenal away this week. 12% voting to sell Solanke were looking to buy Watkins as their replacement. We also saw votes for Muniz, Havertz and Jackson. The problem is, because of price changes, the team cannot sell Nkunku and Solanke for Rodgers and Watkins with the 2 free transfers. Or unfortunately 0.2 million off that because Rodgers has risen and Nkunku has fallen. Elsewhere in the transfers, there were votes to bring in Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold in the defence. So that's something to bear in mind as well. Overall, though, 55% of the experts voted to use 1 free transfer, with 40% looking to use 2 and 5% looking to roll. So There is something to bear in mind there. We did have a strong 8 to start the season. So do we go with 1 free transfer or do we go with 2? Looking at the squad then and the defence picks itself, it's Henderson in goal and a backline of Robinson, Vardiol and Porro. All away fixtures doesn't look the easiest on paper, that's for sure. But let's see how we get on. There's definitely attacking threat from the defenders that will help. And we've got Fabianski, Harwood, Bellis and Barco, so not a lot to help us out on the bench there going into game week 3. Now, it is a 5-man midfield this week, as you can see on screen, only using the 1 free transfer. So Nkunku is gone, Rodgers has come in, that's freed up 1.3 million in funds, which will be important going forward, rolling that second free transfer. So it's a midfield of Jota, Eze, Saka, Smith Rowe and Rodgers. Again, we've got 4 away games in there. Not looking like the easiest on paper for the premiums, but Smith Rowe and Rodgers facing both promoted teams is a mouth-watering prospect. That allows us to bench Solanke, who is an injury risk, and Newcastle away, not the easiest fixture, especially if there's a chance that maybe we only see minutes from the bench from Solanke, which as things stand at the moment, looks like best case scenario. And then it's Haaland and Isak in the forward line. Both got great records against their respective opponents this week, by the way. Now, I did ask the experts who to captain, and with 93% of the vote, it was Haaland away at West Ham. Saka gets the vice captaincy for this week as well. Let me know in the comments then whether you are doing better than this experts community team. Drop a like on this one, subscribe to the channel as well, and hit the notify button, because at 1 o'clock UK time on Friday, I'll be live with the press conference stream with that update from Ange Postecoglou on the availability of Dominic Solanke. Thank you for watching.